Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I'm here for just a few random dehydrating tips I wanted to throw out there. Some of this is just reminders of things I've covered in other videos, and some of this is just answering a few questions that have come in recently. And the first thing I want to mention is that I get people that ask me all the time, can I dehydrate this or that or the other thing? Maybe I have dehydrated those things and I can tell them, yes, indeed you can, with good results, or maybe I haven't. And you know how I've learned how to dehydrate things is simply by doing. And I know what the deal is a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to waste a whole bunch of product if I'm going to hate it. Well, you don't have to do that. It's as simple as this. If you're already dehydrating a bunch of other stuff and you want to at least try something, just right along with the stuff you already have dehydrating, whether it be an electric dehydrator, a solar dehydrator, dehydrating on the wood stove, however you're dehydrating, which by the way, I have a video of various different ways that you can dehydrate, many of them that don't have to cost any money, no electricity, and or simply just using stuff you already have around your house. So I'll link to that video in the description box down below, but the thing is like I decided I'm going to try dehydrating some avocado. Well, avocado is not cheap. And I didn't want to dedicate even a whole avocado or a half an avocado to dehydrate if I'm not going to like it. So I took, I think, a single slice or two, real thin slice, cut them up in little pieces, and was surprised to see how easily it dehydrated up, but hated the flavor of it. For some reason, I might try it again at some point, but I hated the flavor. But thankfully, I didn't waste a whole avocado to find that out. Which, by the way, it did also powder up really well. But again, the flavor was bleh. And I know that avocado was a good avocado because I ate the rest of it raw. So, I did the same thing when I was wanting to see how well things like sour cream or cream cheese would dehydrate. I would just work with small amounts at a time. And so that's how you learn whether or not it's either going to work or if even you're going to like it. Now, maybe I'm showing you things like dehydrating raw eggs and how to use them, or pumpkin and how to use that, which actually right here is pumpkin. I just got done dehydrating that. The next step I'm going to do is powder it. And so that's what I do now. It's the only way I preserve my pumpkin from my garden anymore. I don't freeze anymore. And the purpose for that is it saves a lot of room and it's easy to use. I don't have to open a whole can of pumpkin if I just want to make a little batch of pumpkin dip or a batch of cookies and I only need a little bit to do that. Well, I can just use a little bit of the pumpkin powder and I don't have to worry about working through a whole jar of it. I can either re-vacuum seal it, or as I usually do with some things I'm working through, there are certain things you don't have to vacuum seal if you're working through it on a regular basis. But anything that goes in long-term storage, I vacuum seal. You don't want to dehydrate a whole bunch of eggs or milk or meat or pumpkin or whatever just to find out, wow, it dehydrated well, but I don't like the flavor of it. I don't like the way it works in certain foods and dishes. You don't want to do that. Always, even if it's something that I highly recommend, always start small. Just do a little bit at a time. When it comes to meats, I like to bring this one up a lot because it was about a year ago, I found this out by accident that I've dried meats before, and knowing that they're all going to turn out like jerky. And so it doesn't matter if the meat was previously cooked or if it was raw. And that was fine if I wanted to do it just as a snack. And I decided one time to take some of the leftover chicken, and dehydrate it up as a snack, knowing it would be a chewy snack, and thought, I'm going to try cooking with this and see what happens. And kind of what I expected happened. It did not rehydrate well. It always stayed kind of chewy. And so it wasn't really the best thing to use in making like a chicken fettuccine or a chicken a la king or adding to soup. But what I found out, and same thing with turkey, but what I found out completely by accident when I decided, well, I'm just going to go ahead because I do like snacking on it like a jerky. I'm going to go ahead and pull out some of the turkey left over from one of our Thanksgivings because there's a lot in here, and just dehydrate it up to make room in the freezer. Well, because that meat had been previously cooked and then frozen and then dehydrated, I was shocked to find out those steps cause the meat to turn out very crispy and easy to use in soups, in sauces, and much more. So that's what I have here. This is actually from this year. So this is turkey that I previously, it was from Thanksgiving. I took all the leftover turkey off the bird, froze it, so it was already cooked. It's got to be cooked first. Then you freeze it in its cooked form. You know, leave it in there for at least a good 24 hours or so. You want it fully frozen. Then you take it out, you put it on your dehydrator trays and you dehydrate it, and it will turn out very crispy and light. Now, if you would like some more tips on that, I have a video dedicated just to that topic that I'll link to in the description box down below. And then here I have a lot of meat put up this way now because it's now my favorite way to put up meat. One of my other favorite things that I tried was corned beef. So we had a couple of corned beefs that I got from Misfits Market in the freezer, and I was trying to make space. So I took them both out, cooked them both at the same time, knowing it would be a lot of meat. And one got eaten on for a couple of nights. And then the other one, I immediately, after it was cooked, I chopped it up, put it in the freezer, let it sit in there for a couple of days, and then took it out and dehydrated it, and it just turned out nice and crispy. It's a delicious snack as is, but I'm really looking forward to eventually using this in my next batch of cold cannon I make from entirely home dehydrated ingredients. So potatoes from my garden that I mashed up and then dried and then powdered them up as best I could, plus the dried corned beef, plus dried cabbage, because I got a lot of that put up now too, because I'm finding I love dehydrated cabbage to use in just about anything, including making kimchi. But with all that said, some other questions that have come in is in regards to what to vacuum seal in. Now, I always vacuum seal into jars. I use jars all the time. I love jars over Mylar by far, though yes, they take up more room. They do stack nicer than Mylar, and they're not going to puncture the way Mylar can. So some things are fine to vacuum seal in Mylar or to seal up in Mylar, but anything with sharp edges, like some of your meats, once they're dehydrated, can have sharp edges on them that can poke holes in your Mylar, then meaning that, you know, it was kind of pointless putting it in Mylar in the first place, especially if you're going to vacuum seal it, which vacuum sealing Mylar is really kind of tricky. Typically what people are going to do is use oxygen absorbers, which I hate. I hate oxygen absorbers. I completely stopped buying them altogether. If I'm going to seal anything up in Mylar now, I use the immersion method with water. I might even have a little clip I can squeeze in here from an old video where I was making emergency food ration bars to keep in our go bags that we keep in our vehicles. If you get like a Ziploc style of Mylar, that's the only kind I buy now, and then you immerse the bag down into a big bowl of water, working out as much of the air as you can. Then you just zip it up, but also making sure you don't let that water come up over the top of the bag. Obviously very important. Some people might take a real narrow straw, like the kinds that's often given to you as a stirring straw. I guess they still do that. I don't know. I don't go to coffee stands. I just don't do that. Some people will use those because they're so small, and then they'll just suck the air out that way and then finish zipping up the bag. And they find that works out pretty good. But you can use oxygen absorbers. But again, if it's anything with sharp edges at all, like dried pasta or whatever it is, just know that once you do that, you're going to most likely get holes in your bag. The same thing will happen with food saver bags that I found out. When you go to vacuum seal it, you know, you put it in your food saver and you vacuum seal it down, and then all that's getting compressed, and then pop, 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 things are going to start popping through the bag. So not my preferred method, though. Yes, you can package some of your dried goods up into bags if that is what you prefer. Yes, they're lighter weight. These are going to be things just like with the food ration bars that are good for putting into go bags, because you don't want to be carrying jars around. They're going to be heavier. They're going to be more likely to break. Then another tip I want to bring up is that, and this is very important, very, very important. When you're dehydrating anything, doesn't matter what method you're using, if those items are still warm at all, when you take them off of your dehydrating source, you need to let them cool entirely, all the way down to room temperature before you vacuum seal them into a jar or any other type of container. So what that means, what I typically do, like with the meats, even with the pumpkin, and apples, potatoes, whatever it is, if it still has heat in it, when I get it off the dehydrator trays, I spread it out on my big board in the kitchen, let them cool down to room temperature, then I put it in my jars, then I vacuum seal it. Because here's what's going to happen. If you have any warmth left in your food, when you go to vacuum seal it, it's going to cause sweating inside the jar. And then all your stuff in there is going to go stale, and then eventually it's going to mold, and you're just going to have to throw it out. So I made that mistake with my first batch of potato slices and dices that I did this past year, is that I was feeling them. I was thinking, okay, these feel cool enough. I put them in the jars, vacuum sealed them, and then left them out overnight like I always do. Anytime I vacuum seal anything, I leave it out overnight, usually at least 24 hours, so I can make sure that it held its seal and make sure there's no issues going on in the jar. If I see any moisture build up in there, then that tells me, like happened with the potatoes, I didn't let them cool off enough. So what I had to do was take all those out, dehydrate them some more for another hour to remove all that moisture that had been in the jar, and obviously get a good clean dry jar, and then let everything cool off completely again, and made sure I let it sit for quite a while. I made sure it was totally cool. I really felt everything. Then I vacuum seal it in jars, and then no more problems. So that is a very important step. I have had some jerky that ended up getting mold on it because of that same reason. Jerky can last for many years, vacuum sealed in a jar. Unless you put it into the jar and there's any heat in it, then again, you're going to get sweating, and that's going to cause mold to develop, even in a vacuum sealed jar. So just a few little points you're going to want to know. And if you're interested in more on dehydrating, I'll be linking to the playlist on all my dehydrating videos that I've been doing. On YouTube, it will be the videos for the past 7 years. And then Rumble, it'll be quite a few videos, mostly the ones I've put out in the past 2 or 3 years. And if you're on Rumble, I'll have both those playlist links in the description box. You're watching us on YouTube and you'd like to subscribe to me on Rumble, where there's a lot of videos that I can't put on YouTube. My Rumble link is always in the description box down below, as well as my other social media links. So don't forget to click on either the words more or show more, whichever one is showing for you, because it depends on what channel you're on. If you're on Rumble or YouTube, it depends on what device you're on. If you're on a computer or a smart device, that means it can look different for you, but it will be just below the video screen and above the comment section. Click on those words. It'll open the description box to find all the video links, social media links. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.